So when you go up in the Maritimes, you become fans of two teams in the NHL, mostly. Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. So what would you think, ladies and gentlemen, of a Maritime player who was a Montreal Canadiens killer in a playoff series that ended a 4-year championship run for the last Montreal Canadiens dynasty of all time? That sounds like something that Hollywood would make. That's not something that happens in Hollywood. That's something that's motivated by the great PEI community of Charlottetown. Well, you can pretty well guess who we're talking about. And this guy probably made more friends in 1980 than he ever had before in hockey, before or since, because that goal he scored late in Game 7 against Montreal to break a tie and put Minnesota over Montreal in the playoffs. Again, it was one of the biggest thrills in maritime NHL hockey history. Now, Al MacAdam, born Reginald Allen MacAdam, played 12 seasons in the NHL between 73 and 85 and was twice an All-Star. Now, again, his key play came with the North Stars, where he was one of the franchise top players in the early 80s with the Steve Payne and Bobby Smith years and Paul Schmier and all that. Now, born in Charlottetown, March 16, 1952, 6 foot tall, a right winger. Now, he was one of the few players ever drafted out of Canadian University hockey, because MacAdam was selected 55th overall by the Flyers in the 72 NHL draft after starring for the University of PI. Now, MacAdam turned pro after the draft and spent most of his first 2 professional seasons with the Richmond Robins, now which was the AHL affiliate of the Flyers. He made his debut in the 73-74 campaign, appearing in 5 games of the Flyers without scoring a point. He made the NHL playoff debut in the clinching game of the 74 Stanley Cup Finals. By virtue of that appearance, he received a Stanley Cup ring for his efforts. However, MacAdam's name was not engraved on the Stanley Cup, but he did win a cup that year. It doesn't matter if it's engraved or not. He's a Stanley Cup champion. Now, following the season, MacAdam was dealt to California Golden Seals in probably one of the best trades in Flyers history, in a deal which saw star sniper Reggie Leach going the other way. Now, he was able to step in as a regular into a weak Seals lineup and had a great rookie campaign with 18 goals and 43 points in 75. In 76, he was the Seals' top player, leading the team with 32 goals, including 4 shorthanders, and 63 points, and played in the All-Star game in 76, scoring a counter. Now, for 77, the Seals moved and became the Barons. Now, MacAdam continued to excel, recording 63 points, and was selected to play in the second consecutive All-Star team. In 78, he was named team captain, but slumped to totals of just 16 goals and 48 points. Now, over 4 seasons with the Seals Barons, MacAdam played every regular season game and ended as the franchise's all-time leading point scorer. Now, MacAdam became a member of the Minnesota North Stars in 79 when Cleveland merged with Minnesota. Now, he had a solid first season with the North Stars, finishing second on the team in scoring with 58 points, despite missing 11 games due to an injury. Now, one of the league's more durable players, he had not missed a game in that point in his career, and only missed 10 games combined in his other 11 full NHL seasons. That good maritime strength from PI, must be the potatoes. Now, during that season, he also forged a solid partnership with rookie center Bobby Smith, and the two would be regular line mates over the next several seasons. Now, in 1980, MacAdam had his finest NHL campaign, scoring 42 goals and 93 points, leading the North Stars in all 3 categories, including assists. He finished 12th overall in the NHL scoring and won the Bill Masterton for perseverance in that campaign. He was named Minnesota's MVP and most popular player following the season. Now, appearing in the playoffs for the first time since 74, he also led the North Stars in playoff scoring with 16 points in 15 games, and he reached again the Stanley Cup semifinals in 1980. The deciding goal in Game 7 of the quarterfinals eliminated the 4-time defending champion Habs. Now, MacAdam's production returned to his previous level in 81. He finished third in the North Stars scoring with 21 goals and 60 points. However, he had another stellar playoff performance with 19 points in 19 games, and Minnesota reached the finals before losing to the Islanders. I think Minnesota would have won the Cup were it not for the Islanders that year, in my personal opinion. Now, in 92, he recorded 18 goals and 43 assists for 61 points, which was his last best and great quality offensive season. Now, always a strong defensive player, MacAdam's offensive opportunities were severely reduced after 82 with the arrival of Brian Bellows, and he spent the remainder of his career as a third-line checker and defensive forward. His production fell to 11 goals and 33 points in 83, but then rebounded for 22 goals in 84. Now, for the 85 campaign, MacAdam was dealt to the Canucks in exchange for future considerations, which actually became Harold Snep's. Now, unhappy about his playing time in Minnesota, he rebounded with a solid season in Vancouver with 14 goals and 34 points. But he could not meet the expectations of being traded for Snep's, who was one of the most popular players in Canuck history. I do remember him getting booed, like, "Where's Snep's?" I remember that chant. Jim Robson, I mentioned that too. Now, he retired shortly after being assigned to the minors at the start of the 86 season. Now, MacAdam finished his career with 240 goals and 351 assists for 591 points in 864 games, along with 509 penalty minutes. His 509 points was the most for a player from PEI, just ahead of the great Bobby McMillan, although that record was surpassed by Brad Richards of the Dallas Stars in 2010. During the playing days, MacAdam was always respected as a tough and capable fighter who many left alone, in the words of Clark Gillies of the Islanders. And this is true. If you know the history of players who were left alone, Gillies was challenged to a fight. I forget who it was. He broke the guy's jaw with one punch. But MacAdam, a big Maritime guy. See, Maritime players make the best fighters, ladies and gentlemen. If you ever covered or seen senior hockey, you know what I'm talking about. Because we don't know when to stop punching. Some of these players just punch and punch and punch. We don't stop. And we don't stop till the job is done. Now, at the conclusion of his career, MacAdam was appointed head coach and assistant athletic director at St. Thomas in Frankton, New Brunswick. He spent 11 years at St. Thomas and was named AUAA Coach of the Year in '96. Now, he returned to pro hockey in '97 to accept a job as HC of the St. John's Maple Leafs AHL in '97. After 3 successful seasons there, he returned to the NHL in 2001, joined the coaching staff of the Blackhawks under head coach Brian Sutter, and spent 4 years as an AC in Chicago. Now, after leaving Chicago, he was hired as head coach of the Halifax Mooseheads in the Q, and spent 2 seasons there before retiring after the 2006 season. He also did scouting with Buffalo, and MacAdam, but last word, I think he's still living in PI. So you can probably track him down. He loves giving autographs, so don't track him down at his house. Wait till he comes out and watches a hockey game at the local bar, because you can always say to him, "Hey, Canadian Sculler." But he's a very jovial guy from what I heard. The typical PEI hockey player has in a great mood. So again, the Stanley Cup to Flyers in '74, All-Star Game 76-77, Bill Masterson in '80, MVP with the Seals '76, led in scoring, MVP with Minnesota in 1980, led Minnesota in scoring, and AUAA Coach of the Year in '96. So final NHL totals: 240, 351, 591, and the playoff totals were just tremendous. Talk about a money player, ladies and gentlemen. Point a game for those 2 Minnesota Stanley Cup runs in '80 and '81. 64 games, 44 points, including 20 goals. Now, he also took time, ladies and gentlemen, to play for Team Canada at the inaugural return for Canada World Championship in '77, where he had 8 points in 10 games, and '79 he had 8 points in 8 games. So you might as well say Team Canada was California, Chicago in '77. But the tapes of the '77 World Championships when he played Russia, and I think Sweden, are available online. But you should see Al MacAdam on the bigger rink. Big rinks, he would have scored probably 50 goals. But I still look at that 1980 season, and those 42 goals he scored that year were pretty well hard work. But the only regret was, ladies and gentlemen, we're on the 50 watch that year. He had a combined 49 goals in 1980, and he was on the bubble. 42 regular seasons, 7 in the playoffs. So that's the legendary story of Al MacAdam. And what's really bizarre about this, ladies and gentlemen, you would never think a guy from Charlottetown, PEI, in his first playoff game, it would lead to a Stanley Cup. That's pretty amazing. And by my knowledge, I don't know what Hall of Fames he's in right now, but it's got to be a few. If he's not in any Hall of Fames in the Maritimes, he should be. And maybe the New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame should put him in, for obvious reasons. Thanks for listening. Bye.